Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. Hope everybody's doing well out there, and today I'm going to be sharing a couple of recipes that we've had for dinner at our house. The first thing I'm going to start with is our pork carnitas. So for this recipe, I have a 4-pound pork butt, a Boston butt or shoulder, whatever your butcher at your place calls it, but that's what it is. And I'm just trimming off some of the fat and then cutting it into about 3-inch chunks. And so I'll just get this whole 4-pound pork roast kind of broke down and put into my bowl, and then I'm going to be topping it with some of our homemade taco seasoning. We make our own taco seasonings at our house, and I need to share that recipe. I need to find it on Pinterest where we got it from. It was actually my sister-in-law's recipe that she used, and my mom was down visiting them in Georgia and said, I need to get that recipe from you. So she did, and we just always use it, and we keep it in a little, it's actually like an old chili powder container that we label taco seasoning. There it is. And we just store a whole batch of it in that. And so now I have all my pork cut up, and I'm going to take my taco seasoning and just kind of shake it out. It's probably about the equivalent of what you would use in one taco seasoning pack. But this is low on salt, so we like to use it, and then we can kind of control our salt level with that. So I'm just going to get it all tossed in there, and then I'm going to take my Instant Pot and set it to the saute setting, and I'm actually going to start browning this up in some oil. So I've got my pot set to saute, and it's on the highest saute setting, and I'm just gonna put into this oil in the bottom of the pan about half of that 4 pounds worth of pork, so about 2 pounds of it maybe in there. And because you don't want to overcrowd, you want to get it a little brown, and so you want to kind of give that room to do that. Just flip it over and let it brown on all sides, and then I'm going to take it out of the pot and do the next batch. I had somebody ask me the other day, does an Instapot actually get hot enough to truly saute meat or brown up ground beef? And I said, yes, it does. That's kind of one of the cool things about it, is you can all in one pot. You know, whenever you have those recipes in the crock pot where you have to start it on the stove, you got to brown your meat and then get it in there, or brown up your ground beef and get it in there. You dirty up an extra thing, it's an extra step, but having the Instapot kind of helps with that. Just kind of cuts down on one of the cleaning things you got to do. So now that all the meat's all browned up and it's sitting to the side, it's by no means cooked. It's just been browned. Now I'm adding the garlic. This recipe, I will link it down below. I found it on a website and I decided to try it, and it called for 12 ounces of a beer. I don't keep beer in the house. We're not drinkers. So I used a cup of our homemade chicken stock. If you saw that video, I showed you how to make it before, and I'll link it on the end of this one. Then I'm putting in some orange juice and lime juice. Again, follow the link to the recipe, and it'll show you all the measurements. The only thing I did different was I'm putting in my own salt and pepper, because I'm using my own homemade taco seasoning, and they kind of call for all the different seasonings that come in taco seasoning all spelled out for you. So I'm not using all the individual ones. I'm just using our homemade taco seasoning, or like I said, you could use a package. Then I'm just dropping all the meat down into that, and then I'm gonna put the lid onto it. Now, whenever you're cooking pork, whether you're doing it whole or cut up, I would suggest that you always cut it up into smaller pieces for the Instant Pot, because it's not like the crock pot where you're going to be taking 8 to 10 hours slow cooking it. It's going to fall apart. You kind of want to help it along by putting it in smaller pieces. If you do the whole big one, and I've done that on another video on here before too, it's just a long process of cooking it, but this is still going to be a long time. So you're going to switch your pot from saute to off, and then hit manual pressure, and I am going to set this timer for like 80 minutes. It is a long time. When you're thinking Instant Pot, we normally cook things for like anywhere from 4 minutes to 20 minutes. So 80 minutes is a long time. And then I let it natural release for another 40 minutes. But if you invest that amount of time into it, this is what you get. I went and took my tongs after I took the lid off to try and pull the meat out, and literally, yep, it just falls apart. So it's perfect. So I just grabbed my meat masher, chopper thingamabob thing, and went to just at it and just chopped up all that pork in that sauce. Y'all, my family absolutely loved this stuff. My mom, she just kept saying, I can't believe you cooked it in orange juice. It's so good. And it was delicious. So then we decided, my mom was helping me on this night, so she's prepping veggies, and I've got my pan hot, just put a little oil in it, and then we actually had leftovers from another night's meal where we had made a big salad, and I already had these veggies prepped, so I was like, let's add more to it, and we'll just make, like, I don't know, I was thinking fajita veggies, you know, the onions, the peppers, the mushrooms, top it with a little bit of taco seasoning, and clean some stuff out of the fridge that we know we needed to use up, and it would be delicious on tacos. So that's what we did here. So y'all, this was so good. If you haven't figured it out already by watching my videos, we are a family who loves our tacos. And so we had these topped with the vegetables, the salsa, cheese, sour cream, all the works, and it was delicious. Now next, I'm gonna show you how I made bourbon chicken without the bourbon. Because again, we are a dry house, and so I don't have alcohol in hand. And my kid though, Abby, asked for bourbon chicken, and I was like, all right, let's see how you make it and figure it out. So it takes a lot of ingredients, but it's stuff that I had on hand except for bourbon. So what I did was start with about 3 pounds of chicken breasts. Mine were still kind of frozen, which I find helps when you have to chop them up into like 1-inch pieces. If they're kind of so firm, it just makes it easier to cut. So I just trim them up and cut them up into 1-inch pieces. And then I am going to be seasoning the chicken pieces with some salt, pepper, and then coating them in cornstarch. So I'll be frying them up in a little bit of oil with that cornstarch on them. But it's better than breading them and like deep frying them. You're not having to go through all that. You're just simply going to get that cornstarch on it. Kind of gives it this, I don't know, coating that the sauce will stick to later. It's really good. So I've just, in the canola oil, browned up one side, flip them over, get the other side brown. And then I'm gonna transfer all the chicken, do it in batches of course, and get it all into just a casserole dish on the side, so then I can make my sauce in that pan next. Now, my pan, it's stuck. I mean, it's stuck hardcore. Got chicken and probably cornstarch bits, whatever, stuck on there. I kind of gave it a scrape. That wasn't really getting me anywhere, but that was fine. Once I started adding all the liquid, that stuff came up and it just helped thicken the sauce, and of course it added flavor, so no biggie. Don't sweat it if that happens to you. So the first thing I'm doing is adding a couple of spoonfuls, probably more than the recipe called for, of garlic, and I just used minced garlic in here. And by the way, don't forget, the recipe is down below in the description box. I'll link where I found this exact recipe, and I'm telling you as we go along what I did different. So that was chicken stock, and I use homemade chicken stock for this. I think the recipe called for like half a cup, and then it called for a cup of water. And I thought, well, why would I put water in there when chicken stock has more flavor? So I ended up doing like a whole cup of chicken stock. And then I put in the soy sauce and the ketchup And like I said, this calls for bourbon because it's bourbon chicken, but it only called for 1/4 cup, and it calls for 1/2 cup of apple juice. So I ended up just putting a little more apple juice in it. That was apple cider vinegar, onion powders next, and then some ground ginger is going in, and some crushed red pepper flakes. And so all those seasonings will go in, and then I'm gonna put in the brown sugar and like I said, the apple juice. Make a cornstarch slurry, a few tablespoons of cornstarch and a couple of tablespoons of water. Mix that up and pour that into your sauce, and it will immediately start to thicken. So I turned my heat down and got that all incorporated, and then you just add your chicken right back into that sauce and then toss to coat. We serve this over white rice that I cooked up in our Instant Pot, because we literally use our Instant Pot like almost every night for meals. So this is something that I cooked up on the stovetop, but the Instant Pot still got its work out with the rice that night. We loved it. This is definitely going to be one of those things that when I sit down and make up our monthly menu, bourbon chicken, I could see it being on there at least once a month. We really enjoyed it, and everybody thought it was good. So that's always a hit when you can please all the people in the house. So thanks so much for joining me again, and don't forget to check out the recipes down below. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you know whenever I put out new videos. Thanks so much.